Animals, like people, have feelings. They feel pain, sorrow, and even joy. So why are animals treated the way that they are? Just because animals can't tell us what they feel doesn't mean they don't. Just think if you were the one having makeup and other products tested on you. Imagine that you're in a cage, given little food each day, just enough food to stay alive. You're hungry, you're dirty, and you're miserable. Well, that's what it's like for an animal in a product testing facility. It's extremely unfair. Animals should have rights just as we do. These days, animals are misused and mistreated all the time. Thousands of dogs and cats are euthanized by the hand of animal services and other kill shelters. I went to my local animal services and found out that they euthanize between 75 to 100 animals per day. They didn't even hesitate to tell me the number. At animal services, it is no longer about the animal or their rights. It's about the money. But animal services is not the only one to mistreat animals. Touring circuses is big with elephant abuse. Elephants get extremely harsh beatings and electrical shocks. With dogs, there's underground dog fighting, which is extremely cruel and inhumane. Many dogs are made to fight to their death, which is extremely brutal. Another mistreatment is many animals are allowed to be hunted, and many animals are hunted just for sport. Hunting causes many extinctions. The only animals who are no longer hunted are the ones on the endangered species list. But how do you think they got to the endangered species list in the first place? Many people who neglect or mistreat animals get little to no jail time for their actions. I think if animals had rights, that the consequences for mistreating or misusing animals would be greater, and that might just eliminate some of the cruelty to them. Animals are abused and killed for a variety of socially acceptable purposes. What is socially acceptable varies from one culture to the next. While we find eating dogs to morally be wrong, some cultures find eating cows to be extremely offensive. What animals go through in every culture and country is wrong. Animals are used for unnecessary clothing, testing, and many more inhumane things. Just imagine if we, humans, were used for all of those purposes and products. Animals are used and abused because they cannot speak our language, and because it's harder for them to defend themselves against us, humans. Treating a non-human animal differently just because the animal belongs to a different species is morally wrong. Of course, there are differences between human and non-human animals, but those differences are morally irrelevant. For example, many believe that humans have some cognitive abilities that are different from or higher than other animals. But cognitive ability is not morally relevant. If it were, the smartest humans would have more moral and legal rights than those other humans who were deemed intellectually inferior. In my opinion, if a dog is capable of suffering, a dog is worthy of our moral consideration. Some animals, such as apes, are extremely intelligent and act somewhat as us humans act. So why deny them their freedom or their welfare? In Peter Singer's book, Animal Liberation, he states that the basic principle of equality does not require equal or identical treatment. It requires equal consideration. This is an important distinction when talking about animal rights. People often ask the question, should animals have rights? And the answer is simply yes. Animals surely deserve to live their lives free from suffering and exploitation. Jeremy Bentham stated that when deciding on a being's rights, the question is not can they reason, nor can they talk, but can they suffer? In that passage, Bentham points to the capacity for suffering as a vital characteristic that gives a being the right to equal consideration. All animals have the ability to suffer in the same way and to the same degree that humans do. They feel pain, pleasure, fear, frustration, loneliness, and motherly love. Whenever we consider doing something that would interfere with their needs, we are morally obligated to take them into account. Myself and other animal rights supporters believe that animals have an inherent worth, a value completely separate from their usefulness to humans. I believe that every creature with a will to live has a right to live free from pain and suffering. Only prejudice allows us to deny others the rights that we expect to have for ourselves. Whether it's based on race, sexual orientation, or species, prejudice is morally unacceptable. In conclusion, I feel animals should be entitled to rights. Animals have the right to be free of oppression, certain confinement, use, and abuse by humans. Just because we have a higher intellect doesn't mean we're any better than they are. Animals deserve the right not to be hunted, abused, neglected, and killed just as we do. Thank you for listening.